Hello everyone, welcome to your 14th C++ Cube game tutorial. So let's go ahead and run the example from the previous tutorial. Now the first thing that I want to do is basically I want to change this solid line into a dotted line. So if you remember in a previous tutorial, I'm not sure which one it was, but it's somewhere there, we talked about basic shapes. We have the point, the line, the rectangle, and then the polygon, which is the most general one. Now these things can have a line style and a fill style, and those are defined by attributes. Each of them have a pen attribute and a brush attribute, and you can set their pen attribute and set their brush attributes to determine the type of line and the type of fill. For example, for the line styles you can have a solid line, which is what I drew here, or you could have a dashed line or dotted or any of these. And for the fill style you can have basically all of these options. You can have a solid pattern, dense pattern, whatever that is, gradient, these cross patterns, and you can even have your own texture. So let's just go ahead into our example, and we just want to change the attack area. So let's go into the tower, go inside its constructor. Remember that the attack area of the tower is a QGraphics polygon item. So we can simply take attack area, and we can do setPen, and we can set the pen for this polygon, and we will make a new QPen, and the one that we want is right over here, which is qt.line. So we'll do qt.line. Okay, there we go, and that should fix it. Let's quickly check it. Okay, there we go. Now the next thing for this tutorial is to allow the player to build towers. So basically I want an icon here. When the user clicks the icon, we will enter build mode, which means that now if they click again while in build mode, we're going to place a tower at the location that they click. So I've broken this down into several smaller tasks. The first task that we want is the ability to change the cursor. So we basically want a little picture to follow the cursor, so that when we click the tower, we want to change the cursor to a tower icon so we know where we're going to place the tower. Okay, so let's go ahead and give our game the ability to set the cursor. So we'll go inside our game class, and we'll give it a new attribute that points to a QGraphics pix map that will represent the cursor. So QGraphics pix map item, we'll call it cursor. Okay, and then initially we want to set this to no PTR because we don't want the cursor to look like anything initially. So we'll go inside the constructor and we'll set the cursor. So we'll do cursor equals no PTR. Okay, and then we want to create a member function for changing the cursor. So we'll call it setCursor, and we'll just have it take a string, a Q string, that basically points us to the file name. So we will use any picture in our resource file, and if we pass a string to that file, we can change the cursor to that file. Okay, so let's go ahead and define this setCursor method. Okay, now we quickly want to check if the cursor is no PTR, because if the cursor is no PTR, then there's no need to delete the other cursors. So the previous cursor. So, well, first of all, let's change the cursor, I guess. So we will basically do cursor equals new, and we will make a new QGraphics pixmap item. We will set the pixmap to QPixmap, and we will just pass the file name. Okay. Now before we do this, I don't want to do this. Well, let's see. How do I explain this? Maybe the code will just make it clear. If not cursor, so if the cursor is not pointing to no PTR, that means it is pointing to something. So we have a previous cursor, then we want to delete that cursor to save ourselves some memory. I hope that wasn't confusing. I don't like negated logic like this. It's hard for me to explain it because I feel like it's hard for people to understand. But we'll walk through it a little slowly. So this condition basically checks if we don't have a, or if we do have a previous cursor. I'm sorry. So if we do have a previous cursor, because cursor by default will evaluate to false. So we're negating that to true. So basically, if we do have a cursor, then we want to delete that previous cursor. So we will do C, and this is just to save ourselves some memory. Remove item, the cursor, and then we want to delete it. And then we want to, okay, so that's it. And then we want to delete it. And then after that, we want to set it to this new one. Okay, let's go ahead and quickly test this. So we'll go ahead and go inside the game.h, and right here we'll do some test code, and we'll quickly change our cursor. So we'll do setCursor to, I don't know, we'll make it the arrow. So we'll do inside the resource file images/arrow.png, and let's go ahead and see if this works. Okay, it does not work. So we forgot to add the pixmap item onto the scene. So let's go ahead and go and add it to the scene. So we'll go back inside the game class setCursor method, and after we create that new cursor, let's add it to the scene. Remember, you always have to add QGraphic items to scenes in order to visualize them. Let's see if this works. Okay, it works. I guess we added the cursor item, but now we have to move it to follow the mouse. So basically, let's go ahead and do that. So what is this little warning I'm getting? QGraphic scene, remove item, cannot remove 0 item. So I'm guessing that this is in the setCursor method. So, oh yeah, my logic here was wrong. This is why I don't like negated logic usually. That's how it should be. And that should solve it. Yeah. Okay, so once again, the setCursor method will check. If we have a previous cursor, so if this is not null PTR, then we want to remove that to save memory. And then we simply want to make a new cursor specified by the file name. And that's it. Now let's go inside the game class, and we want the cursor to follow the mouse. So let's create a mouse move event. This event will trigger whenever we move the mouse. Okay. And in order for a widget to detect mouse movement, you have to set one of its attributes. So let's go ahead inside our game class, inside the constructor, and let's set mouse tracking. So we want to set that to true. You have to do this if you want the widget to detect mouse movement. Okay, so now our game class can detect the mouse movement, and it has a method for responding to mouse movement. Let's go ahead and define that method. So we simply want to check if we have a cursor. So if it's not null PTR, we want to set the position of that cursor. To the position of the mouse. So event position. Okay, let's go ahead and test this. Okay, there we go. So we've successfully changed our cursor. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to create an icon class, and I'll just represent that using a QGraphics pixmap item. When you click that icon, I want to change into build mode. So we need to give our game class a way to know that it's in build mode. And then if we're in build mode, we want to basically, if we click while we're in build mode, we want to build a tower at the position clicked. So let's go ahead and define all of that. Add a new header file. We'll just call this build tower icon. Also add the source file, tower icon. Okay, let's remove that. So this will just inherit from a QGraphics pixmap. It's simply an icon, it's a picture. And And let's give it a constructor. Let's give it an optional parent argument. We've done this several times before. And this tower icon will need to respond to a click. So we will give it the mouse press event. Okay, so let's include the proper header. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and implement the constructor first. So include our header file. Okay, so in our constructor, we simply want to call the parent constructor, so QGraphics pixMap item. We want to pass our argument, and then we just want to set the pixMap. So we will do set pixMap to a new QPixMap defined by our file inside the resource file. We'll go to images/tower-icon.png, which is a quick little icon that I drew using GIMP. Okay, so now that we've defined that, let's go ahead and define what happens when we click on this icon. Okay, so we want to know, basically, we need to give the game the ability to know whether we're in build mode or not. So the way that I'm going to do that is use an attribute. Simple as that. I'm going to, instead of using a boolean, I'm going to go ahead and use a pointer that points to a tower. Now if that pointer points to null PTR, then I'm going to assume we're not in build mode. Otherwise, we are in build mode. So let's go ahead and include tower. We'll make a tower pointer. We'll just call this build. This will tell us whether we're in build mode or not. And let's go ahead and initially set it so we're not in build mode. So let's set this to null PTR. Okay, let's go back and define what happens when we click on one of these icons. So the first thing that we want to do is check if we're in build mode. If we're already in build mode, we don't want to go to build mode, basically. So if we're not in build mode, so basically if build, okay, once again, I hate negated logic. I hope this makes sense. So if we're not in build mode, this means that if null PTR is false, so if it's false, it will, if it's null PTR, then this will execute. So, okay, that makes sense. We can quickly test it and see if it works. So if we're not already in build mode, then we want to build. And the first step to build is to tell the game that we're building. So let's go ahead and include the game class because we need to tell it something. Okay, and then let's specify that we have an external global game variable. Okay, so we want to tell the game that we are building. So we want to set this to a new tower. Okay, which means we have to include tower. Seems like we've already included it somewhere, so we're good. Okay, so now we are in build mode, and then we want to change the cursor. So set cursor to basically images/tower-icon.png. Okay, let's quickly look this over and make sure that it makes sense. So when we click on the tower icon, if we are basically not, if we are not building, so if the build is null PTR, then we want to make a new tower. So if we're not building, we want to build. And then we want to change the cursor, so we're in build mode. Okay, that makes enough sense. Now let's go ahead and define what happens when we click once we are in build mode. So we will give a mouse press event to the game class. Okay, so simply we want to check that if we are in build mode, then what we want to do is, let's see, I gotta hurry up. This is running a little too long. Okay, so if we are in build mode, when we click, we want to position the tower at the position that we click. So we're going to do scene, add item, and we're going to add this, which points to the tower, which is no longer null PTR. So we want to add that, and then we want to change its position. So set position to event position, so the position of the mouse click. Okay, and then we want to specify that we're no longer in build mode, because once we build the tower, let's get out of build mode so we can build another tower if we need to. So let's set first of all, let's change our cursor. So we will go ahead and cursor equals null PTR, and then we will go ahead and build equals null PTR. Okay, this makes sense. Now, what if we are in build mode, or we're not? I'm sorry. So we build if we are in build mode. If we're not in build mode, we just want to do what we normally do, which is pass the event down. So the way that we do that is we call the parent QGraphics view. Remember that the game class derives from QGraphics view. So we just want to call the regular QGraphics view mouse press event. And what this will simply do is it will pass on the event to the item that's being clicked. So if that item happens to be the build tower icon, then we go into build mode. Let's go ahead and see if this works. Okay, well, let's first of all remove our test code. So game constructor, let's remove our old test code. And basically we want to create an icon. So let's go ahead and include the icon header file. It's called build tower icon. Okay. Build tower icon. We'll just call it TO. We'll call it IC new. We're going to add it to the scene. Okay, let's go ahead and see if this works. Unresolved external, build clean all, build run qmake, and run it again. Okay, we got a few errors. Undeclared identifier, build. Okay, so that's because the build member is inside the game. So there we go, no problem. SetCursor cannot convert one argument from const char. Okay, because the setCursor method takes a QString, not a const char. So let's just take care of that. That was not a big deal. And cannot convert one argument from QString to const QString reference. What is this? What's the problem now? Okay, so it takes a QString. Images tower icon.png. Let's go inside the game. Well, let's see. Oh yeah, because the setCursor is inside the game class. First of all. Okay, there we go. So now when we click this, it changes, but we don't want to change it to the tower icon. So let's exit this, and we want to change it to the tower. Okay. So when we click the icon, we change our cursor to the tower, and then now we're in build mode. And when I click while in build mode, we create a tower at the position that I click, and then we go out of build mode so I can repeat the process. So there we go. Now we can build towers. Click it. We enter build mode, we change our cursor. While in build mode, when I click again, we build a tower, and then we exit build mode. So there we go. Now, an exercise for you guys is to make it so that you cannot build two overlapping towers. So you can just use the collision to check for that. It's quite easy, but this tutorial is running too long, so I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.